On episode 440 of the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we meet Dr. Barrie Tan and discuss his book, The Truth About Vitamin E. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/440. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. This episode of the 40 Plus Fitness podcast is sponsored by SaveTheChildren.org. COVID-19 has been devastating for many of us, but no one is more affected than children. It has left many children without caregivers, out of school, and exposed to violence and exploitation. We used to be winning the battle on poverty, but now poverty is rising, especially for children. Save the Children believes every child deserves a future. In the United States and around the world, they work every day to give children a healthy start in life, the opportunity to learn, and protection from harm. With your support, Save the Children can help children in unsafe households and help support distance learning in the face of school closures. Here's some ways your support can make a difference. $10 can nourish an out-of-school child in need for one day, including breakfast, lunch, and dinner. $35 can provide educational toys and activities to engage eager out-of-school learners. $50 can deliver essentials to keep kids learning while out of school, like books, activities, and supplies. Go to SaveTheChildren.org/SaveKids to help save the children in this time of unprecedented need. This episode of the 40 Plus Fitness podcast is sponsored by Swanson Health. They have been producing high-quality vitamins and supplements, foods, and healthy home and self-care products for nearly as long as I've been alive. When I first visited their website, you can access it at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/Swanson. I was floored by the selection. They have over 20,000 wellness products. From quality vitamins and supplements to cruelty-free beauty items to eco-friendly home products, Swanson Health is here to keep you healthy. I picked up some vitamin E, the tocotrienols, as discussed with Dr. Tan on episode 440, some CoQ10 for heart health, vitamin A for eye health, and some probiotics for gut health. With all that's going on in the world, I'm supplementing to bolster myself against stress and support my immune system. I also picked up some elderberry syrup for my wife, which she is also using for immune support. Not only does Swanson Health offer many of the highest quality brands, they also carry their own Swanson brand vitamins and supplements. And as is becoming more relevant in recent times, I can tell you the Swanson brand of vitamins and supplements are made in the United States, following strict quality standards. If you want to try Swanson Health's great products for yourself, go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/Swanson and use the code FITNESS20 for 20% off. Here is your chance to stock up on the vitamins and supplements you need to support yourself on your health and fitness journey and save money in the process. Go check them out at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/Swanson and don't forget to use that code FITNESS20 for 20% off. Please take a moment to visit our sponsors. They help us keep the lights on here at 40 Plus Fitness Podcast. Our guest today is hailed as the world's foremost expert on vitamin E, credited with discovering tocotrienol in 3 major sources: palm, rice, and annatto. A scientist first and foremost, he earned his PhD in chemistry and biochemistry from the University of Otago in New Zealand and spent several years as a professor at UMass. Today, his research focuses on lipid-soluble nutrients that reduce and slow chronic conditions. With no further ado, here's Dr. Barrie Tan. Dr. Tan, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Hi, glad to be on.
Now, for a long time, I'm going to admit, I would read about vitamin E, and it's this antioxidant that you're supposed to have. And then I'd be reading on vitamin E, and it's like, well, maybe vitamin E isn't all that good for you. Maybe you don't need as much as we thought you did. Maybe it isn't as good an antioxidant. Just drink red wine and you'll be fine. But in your book, The Truth About Vitamin E, you shed a lot of light on why, not only what vitamin E is, but why maybe the science had a hard time catching on to why vitamin E is valuable and why we may have missed it because we didn't truly understand the nature of vitamin E at the beginning.
Yeah, I think that, sometimes there are things that we are hardwired in life, and vitamin E is one of those. The popular vitamin E, or the one that has been known for 40, 50 years before, is something called tocopherol. You can see it on the cereal box, and people say, take your vitamin E tocopherol, and nothing intrinsically wrong with that. And then in the 1980s, a lot of studies were done on them. This is when I was a young assistant professor at the University of Massachusetts then. And then I was also swept in and wanted to learn more about vitamin E as an antioxidant, all these wonderful things that it would intervene chronic conditions. So if somebody were to go online and search for vitamin E, you'll find that nothing happened to it. At the very best, it didn't work. And then at worst, it may do some harm. That vitamin E could cause cardiovascular disease and cancer. You can look. So now the audience don't need to be alarmed. You just feel, wow, why is that? So that is referring to the vitamin E tocopherol because it's known for 50 to 70 years before. Somewhere along that time, I got interested in the much, much lesser known vitamin E called tocotrienols. It's a mouthful of a word. Later, when you get a copy of the book, you can see, and then it's spelled out for you there. This, at that time, is little known, but meanwhile, the public knows vitamin E as tocopherol. But I get fixated to study tocotrienol. Much less is known then. It was already known to the scientists and few scientists. So I decided to stick in on there and then study what plant material make this kind of lesser known vitamin E. And so that started my career 1982. So it's a long time coming. It's no flash in the pan. So for the audience, this is just a love of my life, wanted to pass the information on. There may be something unusual about this lesser known vitamin E. So that's the backdrop why people read and study and want to know more about vitamin E.
Okay. And so scientists have identified that vitamin E is an antioxidant, one of many. Can we tell us just a minute what in just a minute what does an antioxidant do for us and why is it important?
Okay. The word antioxidant, before I say the vitamin E, is a little bit overused, but it's a quick take for the public to understand that it protects you, that it does. Now, I'm not trying to get into the science, but just to the cartoonic version of it. Each of us contain 37, 38 trillion cells. That's a lot of numbers. The world population is about 7.5 billion. So approximately 5,000 times the population of the Earth are the number of cells contained in one human body. And a cell looks like a bean shape. It's just like a cell wall round in a bean. And then inside are all the constituents of the cell, like the nucleus, like the mitochondria, all these things that do good things for the body. But they have to be contained into a cell wall. And the cell wall are fat. They're lipids. They're fat. And fat is the easiest thing to be oxidized. I'm trying to get to the word antioxidant like that. And when people use the word antioxidant, it's overused. So every darn thing is an antioxidant. It's not good for the public to appreciate this. So if you ask me, I care for the things that are easiest to oxidize. If you put a stick of butter in a summer day, it'll go rancid. See? Even if you stick an uncooked piece of meat in the oven, when it go off after a couple of hours on a hot day, you're not smelling the protein going off in the meat. You're smelling this fat going off. So therefore, after a while, we got the gist that when you say things are oxidized, it's the fat that is oxidized. So now back to the cell wall, they are all fat. So therefore, I got very interested to know, I need to know what are the antioxidants that protect the cell, because that is the most, not any antioxidant. About 30, 40 years ago, an Austrian professor did just that. they harvest all the antioxidant on the cell wall of the fat and all the lipoprotein, the particle that float around in the blood. They also have these cell walls. And then he found out that, let's say you have 100 pieces of antioxidant in the cell wall that actually protect the lipid in the cell wall. About 90 to 95 of them, they are vitamin E molecule. The remaining 5 to no more than 10 are other antioxidants. There are thousands of them. So that gives me a big cue that most of the important antioxidants that protect the fat, they look like vitamin E. And the vitamin E now, I'm reducing it down the funnel now. Of the vitamin E, we just discussed the two groups, tocopherols and tocotrienol. The difference of tocopherol, they're both antioxidant. They both catch the bad guys. The difference is a tocotrienol, because the tail is a little bit shorter, it anchors into the lipid membrane if it goes around the cell like that. A tocopherol goes around the cell slower. Figure out like 5 miles per hour like that. A tocotrienol goes around at 50 to 100 miles per hour. In other words, if there's oxygen here to want to oxidize the fat, because it spins around 50 times faster, it captures the oxygen and then annul it. So it won't oxidize the fat. Those things are published scientifically. That's it. So therefore, of the 95% of the antioxidant of vitamin E, I am now segue to the tocotrienol because they're 50 times more potent. So therefore, now to the public information, if somebody needs to protect themselves of antioxidant, first think of protecting the fat. And the fat would be your cell wall. And the best way to protect that antioxidant should be a tocotrienol because they're 50 times more potent. Now I have the hard challenge to communicate this to the public because the public mostly know vitamin E as tocopherol, not tocotrienol. So I hope that explains somewhat on that.
It does. So I think, we know when we start talking about the B vitamins, there's B6, B12, B2, and they've got their own little names just to make it more complicated. But we tend to stick to those numbers, B1, B2, B6, B12. The E vitamins also kind of have their own types as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And there are 8 of them. Do you mind going through the 8 and kind of comparing and contrasting those for us?
Okay. Since you brought up the B vitamin, the B vitamins are very complex. Where the complexity of the B vitamin is reduced to simplistic terms, all B vitamin have 2 things. I know I'm digressing, but I hope this is useful information to your listener. The B vitamins are all water soluble. So it's not really something to do in your body, but they're all water soluble. And the B vitamin, chemically, they're totally different. And one last thing on the B vitamin, they all have to do with growth factor. It have to help a young animal to grow. And then they become a B vitamin because it can help. But chemically, they are very diverse. However, in the E vitamin, sometimes people call it E vitamins, they're very similar molecules. They are just tocopherol, where the tail is longer, anchors less deep, and move around the cell wall slower. And tocotrienol, shorter tail, it goes around the cell wall faster, just 2. Each one of them have 4 numbers on them. It's not called 1, 2, 3, 4. They have the Greek letter alpha, beta, delta, and gamma tocopherols, alpha, beta, delta, and gamma tocotrienol. If one were to do a Google search, you will find more than 90% of the research that shows vitamin E to actually work today are only 2 of the 8 possibilities. And the 2 of them are delta, like the word Delta airline, delta tocotrienol and gamma tocotrienol. Everything else pale, including all the tocopherols and all the tocotrienol, except these 2. Now, to share with you my excitement in the discovery from annatto, which is grown all over in South America. It does not grow from Argentina and Chile, where you see grape country growing is too cold. So anything from Argentina and Chile coming up north all the way to Mexico, you see this. The Spanish people call this a choite. The American call it annatto, and the British have nicknamed it the lipstick plant because it's intense red color like that. So now I discovered this about 22, 23 years ago when I was in Ecuador and Peru, and I found out that this red color is intensely oxidizable. So I was surmising that there's got to be something that protects the color from going bad quickly. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a polyphenol. And surprising to me is a vitamin E molecule. And even more surprising to me, it only contained tocotrienol with no tocopherol. And most surprising to me, it only contained delta tocotrienol and gamma tocotrienol, the two of the eight that I told you that is most potent. So the plant know what they are doing. I'm just fortunate to be there spiritually to discover it. They figure it out through the evolution of time, like that. So now when I discovered that this plant contained the two most potent antioxidants to protect lipid, then I said, I think I stumbled into this. And that was 3 years ago. So I spent the last 20 years doing just about nothing else but figuring out how can I show this would help first in animal studies and then later in clinical studies that is really useful to people. That's what I've been spending most of my life doing.
Okay. I need to take a short break here to let you know something special. I'm starting a second round of 8 weeks to WOW. This small group personal training, which is limited to 10 people, is designed to help you lose weight while gaining and maintaining muscle. The results from the first round have been amazing. I've lost 13 pounds doing it. With access to me through group calls, one-on-one calls, email, and the 40 Plus Fitness app, you'll have all the support you need to lose the weight you want. I'm very proud of what this program is doing for people just like you. You can join now. Go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/8W2W. That's 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/8W2W. But hurry up, there's limited spots and the sign up period is ending soon. Now, I think people can relate to the word rancid. The thought that our cell walls are getting rancid because of an oxygen molecule. One of the ways I've heard it said before that's a little easier to understand is that basically the same thing as rust. Rust is an oxidation of a metal. And I think you can think that's probably good, but there's some real health benefits that we can get from an antioxidant like tocotrienols.
Yeah, and tocotrienol. Now, when people show picture, they rub something on a cut apple so that the browning will go slower. That would be an example of an oxidation that is not lipid because there's no fat in apple. So if you put in vitamin C, the vitamin C, which is ascorbic acid cheap, you just rub a little bit on it, then it just doesn't turn brown. Usually mothers or my wife would do this. If you want to keep apple fresh, there's a simple way to do it. You put acetic acid, vinegar. That's a different process. The vinegar is a knocking off the enzyme. So the enzyme would not cause browning effect. So it's not working as an antioxidant, but it does the same job. But vitamin C would be. If you put tocotrienol on an apple, it doesn't work because it's not a lipid, a cell wall like that. On the rusting is a direct oxidation on the iron, and the iron from iron oxide, see, and then they turn oxidation. They're all oxidation. So you are right. Those are ideas of oxidation, how easily our body can get oxidized, because in air, it's about 20 to 22% oxygen. So there's plenty of oxygen in the air. So you can oxidize things. But lipid, each human body holds about 20 to 25% of lipid. That need to be protected. And it's not like we don't need oxygen and exclude it. Without oxygen, we die, You can see this ventilator thing on a COVID thing. It's very clear. They need to breathe. Otherwise, we die. And now with the news, don't let me breathe, like that. It's just, we need oxygen. But as we need oxygen, the 1 in 1,000 oxygen we breathe in is going to turn raw. That raw oxygen will oxidize your fat. The other 99.9% oxygen is for exchanging the carbon dioxide. All good, like that. So the tocotrienol is there like a police to capture the 1 in 1,000 things gone bad. Otherwise, they'll be good. So that is usually fat related, right on the fat on the cell wall. And that's where tocotrienol play the best role in protecting the fat.
Okay. And there's some definite health benefits that like real health benefits, like cancer, dementia, heart disease, things like that this relates to.
And on those, we did probably 10 years or more of animal study. So we're pretty confident that in this area is worth studying before we put our resources against clinical study with humans. So one of the earliest study we did on the cardiovascular benefit. People that have high lipids are no good, meaning high cholesterol, high triglyceride, people with diabetes have high triglyceride, people have heart disease, have high cholesterol. So we studied that. When we did, we found that in the lipid, the cholesterol typically drop about 15% and the triglyceride drop about 20%. That's good news enough for me because they're not medication. I also asked the researcher that sometimes people have heart disease also caused by inflammation, the stress to their body. So they study something called C-reactive protein, a measurement of inflammation. And that also dropped typically about 30 to 40%. So we got that done, University of Missouri, probably about 10 years ago. Then we also study directly on inflammation, no cardiovascular disease, and we found that the C-reactive protein continued to drop. So we're good with that. It helped people to lower the inflammation, the stress in their life that become biological. Usually the stress is a physical one, but it translates to biological in their body, and it does no good to the body. And we noticed that it quenched the inflammation in their body. So that part is good. Then we studied bone in postmenopausal women, say 55 years old. We did this study in Texas. So in bone is organic. The growing of the bone cell is called osteoblast, the growing cell. And the cell that breaks down is called osteoclast. These two are in perfect balance in life. There's no such thing as just grow and then you don't have to, because the bone turn over once every 24 months like that. But as we get into menopause, the estrogen drop. By the way, estrogen is an antioxidant. So when the estrogen drop, let's say this is the growing bone. The growing bone start to drop. And the breakdown bone start to increase. Well, if the breakdown increase and the growing drop, so on average, the bone is beginning to thin. So it's a balance on this. When we gave them the vitamin E tocotrienol, the growing of the bone start to increase, and the osteoclast, the breakdown of the bone, rather than it go up, it suppresses it. So in other words, it makes the mineralization and breakdown of the bone from 55 to 65 years old, rather than dropping precipitously like that, it dropped like this over time. In other words, it cannot stop it, but it resists the bone. So we are very happy that study was done, and that they take about 300 milligrams or so. I forgot to say, in the earlier cardiovascular study, it was 200 to 500 milligrams. I'll summarize a little later. So it was a second study. And the third study, I'll leave the cancer bit last. The third study is fatty liver. Because the American diet is increasingly having more fat, so there's a silent disease. It makes the liver fatty, not a good thing. Who would have guessed 30 years ago when people have fatty liver are people that consume too much alcohol. So the alcohol is not able to be processed in the liver adequately, and the liver become very fatty, and they call it cirrhosis. Today, we see example of cirrhotic liver to a person that is non-alcohol drinker. And that condition was first identified by Mayo Clinic in the 1980s. It's called, it actually is an awkwardly long phrase. It's NAFLD, acronized for non-alcohol fatty liver disease. So if you want to Google to read up, just put non-alcohol fatty liver disease, NAFLD. It was first identified in Mayo Clinic in Minneapolis in the 1980s, like that. And that is simply caused by, as the phrase said, non-alcohol related, and it's due to fatty acid. We decided to study that silent group because there's no pain, no example, no anything. Unless you do blood, they show a blood enzyme of liver, it gets stressed up like that. So we did that. We did a 3-month study and a 6-month study. So now we are, so on a 3 and 6 month study, we found that surprising to us, not intended, but surprising to us, that the people lost 10 pounds in 3 months. Not as dramatic as your exercise thing that you told on your story, but still it is something exciting. They did not do exercise like that. So they somehow is able to work with the body to quench the inflammation. And in 6 months, they lost 16 pounds. So though is the time dependent like that. We now decided, so convinced by this study, we're doing a 12-month study. We don't know the weight loss. Remember, we did not design the study for weight loss. We actually to see, so to bring back the body back in proper kilter, and therefore it beginning to work properly, the C-reactive protein dropped significantly. I'm thrilled about that. They took 600 milligrams like that. So in the 12-month study, we asked them to increase exercise and improve their food habits too. In other words, not continue to eat very high fat food, which caused their liver damage to begin with. So that's the last one, probably our most dramatic study of them all, were the cancer study. These cancer studies were done in Denmark. It's still ongoing, and we're doing 5 different cancers. And the one that is published is ovarian cancer, and actually 5 cancer, actually 6 of them total, but some of them are duplicating more than the same cancer. But the 4 different kinds of cancer on the 6 studies are ovarian cancer, that's published. And the other 3, because it's 4 different cancers, are lung, breast, and colon. So those cancers. And those are big types of cancer, chronic for sure. If you go to the state of Florida, a huge number of the elderly population have colon cancer. And of course, if they're smoker, which is not a good thing to begin with, they also expose themselves to lung cancer, much higher risk. But this ovarian cancer thing is probably related to the menopausal time. It's related to endometrial problems like that. But on the ovarian cancer, the results are published. We started the study with stage 4 cancer patients. Stage 4 meaning that the cancer have gone everywhere. The options are not good. The doctors cannot do anything. That group of people. So they have standard care. They take medication that make them really sick. But if they don't, then it's even worse. So most of them, after 6 months, they are no longer living. And then the other group is taking the standard of care with the vitamin E tocotrienol. After 6 months, half of them still living. And if after 12 months continue to be, after 24 months, 25% still living. I am talking about a nutritional supplement. This is nothing short of a miracle. You know, if it's a drug, it'll be all over Wall Street Journal, but it isn't. So we published this, but we are very confident. So we're hunkering down to wait for the clinical trial for the breast, lung, and the colon cancer to come out. hopefully will yield other exciting news. And these patients takes 900 milligram, higher dose because they're end stage. Once we are successful with the stage 4, then we will do the stage 3, 2, and 1. You follow? So we
Yes.
did because with stage 4, you have nothing to lose. So we begin with that and we'll graduate to the 1. So for the audience, we don't have all the answers now. We are providing, research is like that. Easy to ask question, but results are not easy to come by. But I would take tocotrienol for the prevention of cancer because nobody can dodge the bullet, Your DNA could go whacked out and then you have cancer causing. So not everything is dietary. So there's a genetic component also. So if I can ward it away by taking 300 milligram, why not? It's a very inexpensive insurance.
It definitely
So
is.
those are the studies.
Yeah, cool. Now, in a lot of cases, when you're taking a mineral, you're taking a vitamin, they'll talk about how it has a symbiotic relationship with something else, and then other times you take something and it actually harms you from getting what you need out of something else. So taking it was actually not in your best interest. And so you talked in the book about when you supplement or your food stuff is pretty high in tocopherols, that can actually be bad for you getting the tocotrienols to work the way you need. I'm going to say it wrong, right?
No, I understand your
yeah.
question.
Okay.
You're referring to, is there anything that would be antagonistic or interfering?
Right. Yeah, because
Okay,
more of a good thing is not always a good thing.
That is correct. I think let me take one step back. Before the show, you had asked me about if you can get something from food, let's get it from food. So I should address that in a dietary manner. In other words, just eating from food. We typically can get about 10 to 12 milligrams of tocopherol. If you just eat healthy food with vegetable like that, you get mostly tocopherol you can get from oil, vegetable oil. If you add them up, and USDA have these kind of numbers, we will on a Western diet probably 10 to 12 milligram of tocopherol. That 10 to 12 milligram of tocopherol is ducky. No problem with that. It's good. It's not. But if you take supplemental tocopherol, it's a different story. People take 400 IU, 600, 1000 IU. That approximate to 400, 600 to 1000 milligram. That is not, you cannot get that from diet. You have to get it from a supplement. And tocotrienol. If you eat a Western diet, typically you have about 2 milligram of tocotrienol. And from the citation I mentioned from the study, they are approximately about 200 to 600 milligram. So if you take it from food, 200 milligram, you need approximately 100 times more. So therefore, it's not possible to get enough tocotrienol from the diet. So just to set the stage for that. So now on the interference and the antagonistic component. If a person takes supplemental vitamin E as in tocopherol, then the supplemental vitamin E tocopherol would interfere with the function of tocotrienol if you want to see the benefit of tocotrienol. So for me, because tocopherol and tocotrienol protect the cell wall equally, they protect the cell wall, but not equally, but tocotrienol protects it 50 times better. I have stopped taking tocopherol for more than 20 years. If I get tocopherol from diet, which I mentioned is 10, 12 milligram a day, that is fine. That would not interfere. It's too small to interfere because I take 300 milligram of tocotrienol, 10 milligram of tocopherol, no interference. But if I take 300 milligram of tocotrienol, then I take 300 milligram of supplemental tocopherol, I have a problem. Because basically my right leg is on the gas pedal and my left leg is on the brake pedal. It's like this. But if I dietarily have 10 milligram tocopherol, my gas pedal right leg is on, nothing on the left leg. So it would not interfere. So interference come in that. So I hope I helped to clarify
You
that.
did. You did. We want our foot on the brake, not pushing it, and then our gas pedal pushing, and that's going to move us forward. All right. I define wellness as being the healthiest, fittest, and happiest you can be. What are 3 strategies or tactics to get and stay well?
That, you know, I don't get asked that kind of question a lot, but I like the way you raised that question. I thought about it a little bit, so thank you for doing it. A different interviewer have different slant on things. Some are very critically scientific, some which is a larger audience, and some is holistic. I see this question that you have. You ask healthiest, and I translate in my mind as wellness. You mentioned fittest, I translate in my mind as exercise. And then you use the word happiest. Happiness sometimes can be elusive, but I translate in my mind happiness as spiritual. I'm in my 60s. There are things that happiness come, but they're fleeting. After a while, it flies away. So that's not a character of happiness. So I thought of happiness as spiritual. Something is intrinsic within me like that. So I think I now describe the 3 things. It's not a strategy, not so intentional like that. I think of these 3 as something I got into. So maybe learning through life. So not so intentional. The first one is, I just describe it in my way. The first one is I move from deleterious. Every people know the word things, bad things, deleterious to nutritional. If it's in life, then it'll be toxic to non-toxic. That phrase is loaded somewhat, but in my study in science, it's deleterious to nutritional. Why do I use the word deleterious? When I was a young assistant professor, I got a lot of grant from the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. So I study fish. Fish have cancer all over their face. It's terrible. And then I study oil spill, and then they have pesticide in the thing. So any good news I can bear are bad news. I appreciate that. But then I said, wow, this is such a downer. But of course, if people tell me, Barry, you better not eat that have a lot of lead. But man, thank you very much for telling me, because I don't want to eat the stuff, right? So, but then I said, I don't want to spend my time bearing bad news all the time. So I don't want to study deleterious things. I greatly appreciate people who do that and inform me about deleterious things. But I started my career then. Then I move on to nutritional things. I wanted to know what makes me healthy. So then I moved from that. So I went from that position. Then I began to be very concentrated in my scientific affair, in wellness and healthy things. So now all my scientific thinking is like that. And I think that it contributes much to my personal health. I have genetic hypercholesterolemia like that. So I have to watch what I eat, I can love, I can do many things, but a non-beating heart cannot work. A non-beating heart cannot love. So I got to take care of a few things so I won't get into problem, So that part talks about your wellness healthier. The second part is I move from moral to spiritual. It's touching on the happy component part. Early on in my life, because of my parents, which I'm very grateful, they teach me that, Barry, you want to live life morally, doing the right thing. People say like that. That's important. So that galvanized me to have rules, right and wrong. Still there like that, but I move away from that. I didn't want it to be just black and white. And then I moved from moral to spiritual. Here I am more aware. My wife teaches me more on this than I am naturally like this, high I, egocentric. It doesn't help, like that. But I'm a Homo sapien. I can't think away from that kind of thing. But it helped. The spiritual part helped me to be aware and help me of my being. So in helping me to be aware of my being, I actually am able to focus on things that are non-matter. The first one is matter. You take this, you don't take this. And this one is non-matter. It helps me. So spiritual being helps me. And this kind of component help me to be happy. Hard to have things that are material making me happy. It did a little bit, and then it just is fleeting, they go away and they don't last, So, and the third, so I touched the happy component. The third one, I did not purposely contextualize, but it actually fit your three things. The third one has to do with the exercise component. Today, with the advent of Google and computer, I'm tempted to sit. But of course, I started my scientific career before the advent of computer and before Google. But I also sit because I'll go to the library to get journal article, and then I sit all day long to read. Then I said, wow, this is not good. So then now I walking. So in the last 2 years in particular, should have done earlier. I'm not a weekend warrior, run like mad. I don't have that in me, but I need to be cardiovascular. If you just walk enough for 20 minutes, your heart will increase pulse rate and my breathing would increase. I want at least that. I want my blood to be circulating. Of course, if I can run like the jog, fantastic, but I can't, My doctor said, Barrie, you're in your 60s. You cannot get your heartbeat above 140. That's dangerous. Your heart will collapse. You're not in your 20s. You can do that. So I watched that. My doctor made me run on a treadmill. So when I get my heartbeat to about 140, he said, Barrie, I can see not rhythmic thing happening to your heart. So you got to make sure that you can't overdo this because you're not in your 20s, like that. So I always want my heart to be cardiovascular. And cardiovascular is not difficult to do. I just walk 20 minutes, my heart will be cardiovascular. Like that. So right now I'm trying to meet the challenge of resistive exercise. I would like to do that because they'll help me to have stronger bones, build a little bit better muscle. I know that when you lost weight, you said that a portion of your weight gain is your muscle mass. I would like to do that. So I'm working on that. So at least.
Okay. Well, Dr. Tan, when we get off this call, let's talk.
Okay, thank you so much. So those are my three things, So
Perfect.
Sorry it took a little long-winded to answer that, but I'm with you on that thought, how you address this to your audience.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, Dr. Tan, thank you for being on 40 Plus Fitness. If someone wanted to learn more about you, learn more about your book, The Truth About Vitamin E, and your product, Delta Gold, where would you like for me to send them?
Okay. First, on the book, it was a labor of love. So you can get a download free copy of the book. You go on the website. My name, Barrie, is spelled a little bit affectatious. It's Barrie. It's a British style of saying Barrie, not end with a Y. Barrie, Barrie Tan, TAN.com. So you go on it. And then because you come through this show, so you can say 40 Fitness, and you'll be able to download a free copy. If the audience like to get the autograph hand copy, you send me an email through the website, and then we'll be happy to send you a copy. Otherwise, you can download it fast. You can read it yourself. As to buying the supplement, if you type online, just make sure that the tocotrienol have the word annatto, ANNATTO, 2 N's and 2 T, annatto tocotrienol, then that's the tocotrienol you want, not from any other sources, then you will get it. If you want specific names of company to buy from, you can buy from Amazon. The 2 or 3 companies that I recommend, they all come from our factory. Like that would be Designs for Health. Designs plural, Designs for Health. Nutracology, they're synthesizing the word nutrition and pharmacology. Nutracology, they have it too. And then AC Grace, capital A, capital C, Grace, as in grace to our life, AC Grace. So these three companies have them. And if you still have difficulty, send us an email. We will direct you how to get it from.
Okay.
So those were, I hope I answered your
Yes,
question.
you did. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/440. I'll have all the links there. So
Thank you so much.
Dr. Tan, thank you for being a part of 40 Plus Fitness.
And thank you, and thank for the audience for so patiently. Hopefully you find something useful to your application to your health. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we meet Dr. Jody Skillicorn and discuss her book, Healing Depression Without Medication. Until then, have a happy and healthy week.